So let's take the schedule thing, shall we? And let's just put it to bed. It's done. The Bills playing bad teams and whatnot, that's done. They only beat bad teams. There's the paper tigers. I talk about it every week for the past month or two on these videos, and it's done. Okay? The Bills, 6.5-point dogs in Dallas on Thanksgiving, the most watched regular season game of the year. It ended up being the most watched regular season game on CBS in like 30 years or something, whatever that stat was, in front of 90,000 people at Jerry World, 30 million more at home, or however many it ended up being. Beat the Cowboys 26-15. The Bills arrive. Josh Allen arrives. And I'm not even really that fan that is like, I demand respect from you. The Bills, we get no respect. I only wanted respect from the standpoint that we had won 8 games. They were 8-3. I don't care who they played. It just does not matter. You're not just going to lose to bad teams. Like, oh, well, we should probably lose to one of these bad teams here, guys. No. You're going to beat them because that's who you play. I'm done with it. I am done with that. The Bills, the best thing I heard, I suppose, came from Kyle Brandt on NFL Network. The Bills, they beat the middleweight. They're this up-and-coming fighter. They beat the middleweight, the Dallas Cowboys, and then they get the heavyweight, and that is, the Baltimore Ravens, who have won 8 in a row. And we will obviously talk about the Ravens, but I cannot speed past the way the Bills beat the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. A game that a lot of people thought Jason Garrett might get fired if they lost. He did not, and obviously this is not a Cowboys video. I don't want me to make this about the Cowboys. Like, I get it, I suppose, from the standpoint that you're 6-6, you still have a pretty good look at the division. You couldn't have known that Philly was going to lose on the road to Miami, and they end up doing that, so you really still control your own destiny. But are you going to keep Jason Garrett? Maybe only if you win the Super Bowl? So you really could get ahead of yourself right now. It's just, I guess maybe Jerry just thinks it's a tough look while they're leading the division. But I mean, Carolina was 5-3. They lose 5 in a row to fall to 5-7. Obviously not leading their division. They're like 5 games back of New Orleans. But the new owner is in there. Like, I think it's time. I think it's time to move on. We got to get a head start on this. He knows they're probably not going to have Cam Newton. They're probably going to trade Cam Newton or cut Cam Newton or whatever they're going to do. So he's starting anew. And, he's really like looking at his team in the mirror. They're taking a hard look at his team and being like, we're just not that good. And Jerry Jones, I feel like, just doesn't have the ability to do that. But, what I did love about Jerry Jones, I'm not going to go into the Cowboys here. Like, this is not about the Cowboys. I could look at Dak and whatever they didn't pay him yet. Doesn't matter. Give me all the Jerry Jones being sad and pissed off videos from Thanksgiving. Love it. Love seeing him get up the SpongeBob I'm a head out thing. I love seeing him walking down towards the locker room, not even really looking at the camera. I love hearing about how there was like yelling and passionate screaming or whatever in the Cowboys locker room. Yes, because you lost to the Bills on Thanksgiving at home, who weren't supposed to be that good, but maybe they are. Bills are now 9-3, 95% chance of making the playoffs. We're going to look at the playoff machine in just a little bit here. But it just goes to show you, like, Dallas being like, the Bills are like, I use the term paper tigers. The Bills are paper tigers. Dallas's offense is kind of like that. They get their yards. They have 426 yards, the most yards the Bills have allowed all season. And they were never really in it in the final 3 quarters. Dallas came out, much to their credit, looked like they were going to blow the Bills out. They had like over 100 yards in their first 2 drives. They were up 7-0, and the Bills really weren't showing a ton of life. But then, here they come. They essentially score in 6 straight possessions. Like, I'm looking at it real quick. They punted on their first 2, then they scored a touchdown, they missed a field goal, they touchdown, field goal, touchdown, field goal, and like the game is essentially out of reach at that point. Dallas, on the other hand, scores a touchdown, punt, interception, fumble, missed field goal, turnover on downs. And they got their yards, and some of you might look at me like, Greg, that's a little lucky sometimes. Like, is it a little lucky that Dak threw that throw short to Zeke in the flat there on 4th and goal? A little bit. He might make it, he might not. Trey White looked like he was closing on him. He might break that and score. I don't know. Are the missed field goals luck? Kind of. But, the Bills missed 1 too. So, that kind of goes both ways. The interception, that's on Dak. throws it right into Starlatule's chest trying to get a screen to work. You know, the sack fumble. That could be on Dak. That could be on the protection. How about a little bit of credit for Ed Oliver coming with 2 sacks in the first half, looking like an animal out there. Love to see it. Who else got in there? Shaq got in there a little bit. Jordan Phillips in there a little bit. Trent Murphy got himself one. Bills had 4 sacks on the day. Great job by the defense overall, despite the fact that they gave up 32 first downs and over 400 yards. Like, they probably have some sort of negative rating on that, like a DVOA type of thing. They might have a negative rating for that. But, like, honestly, if you watch the game, that's why, you know, analytics, I love analytics personally. I think they tell a lot of extra stories. But, like, sometimes, you know, and maybe it goes to prove that the Bills are maybe a little bit lucky to win that game with the missed field goals and the turnovers and whatnot, which sometimes are luck. You know, I think to make an example, I think the Steelers are kind of lucky in that regard. Like, they're not gaining yards, but they're getting a lot of turnovers. Like, they're recovering a lot of fumbles. I think they lead the league in recovered fumbles, which is pretty much luck. But to their credit, they're getting a lot of sacks, and sacks lead to fumbles and things like that. So, like, that's just to, you know, sort of draw a comparison there. Anyway, I don't want to obviously skip over Josh Allen and Cole Beasley's performance. Josh Allen, 19 of 24, but he's not accurate. 19 of 24, 231, and a touchdown. Another 43 rushing and a touchdown. The guy is unbelievable in the red zone rushing the football. I cannot believe how good he is. And I know some of his 8 rushing touchdowns are like sneaks on the 1-yard line, maybe 3, but every time the guy takes off, almost every time the guy takes off in the red zone, he gets in. It's unbelievable to watch. He's just so effective at doing it. And you obviously don't want to tell him to stop. It's a crazy good weapon to have. Felt so good for Cole Beasley getting 6 for 110 and a touchdown in his return to Dallas. The touchdown was just great to watch because you could just tell how fired up he was. You could feel it. Obviously, the Bills had a mic'd up segment. If you haven't watched it, I would recommend going back and watching it. They had Cole Beasley mic'd up for it, and it was great to watch. Devin Singletary also catches a touchdown from John Brown. I believe they busted that out. I think that was after the Allen fumble. The fumble, like the 4th down, where he fumbles the snap, and you're like, but he picks it up, goes over the pile, and gets the first down. That might be the luckiest play of his career. Even if he plays another 15 years, that might be the luckiest play that he ever has. Like, that's crazy, but, like, you love to see it, right? What more can you say? Love to see it. You know, I have been on the side. I have told you a couple of times the Bills might be a little bit lucky here or there to be where they are. So many kickers have missed field goals against them. Like Tennessee may miss a ton of field goals. Dallas missed a couple field goals, but the Bills were very good on offense in that game. They weren't that great in offense against Tennessee. Like, the Jets missed an extra point and a field goal. Like, these are just things that happen. This is just what happens. You don't ask for this. You don't ask for them to miss field goals. You just hope that they do, and they do. Anyway, 9-3, guys. The Bills are 9-3. They are 95 to 96% to make the playoffs. I've played around on the New York Times playoff machine a little bit here and there. And here is where I am with that. I'm going to play with it a little bit. I'm just going to put in a Week 17 win for the Bills against the Jets. They're 99%. 99. That's not 100, but 99. You know, all they got to do is beat the Jets at home, and they're 10-6. They get to 11 wins. They go 2-2 in these last 4 games. They make it. They're in. They go 11-5 because looking at the standings, you know, the Bills are 9-3. They have a 2-game lead with 4 games to go over Pittsburgh and Tennessee. Plus, they have the tiebreaker with Tennessee. Tennessee does play Houston 2 more times, so you probably don't want Tennessee to win those games because you don't want Tennessee to win the division because you have the tiebreaker. Because Houston is 7-2 in the conference. Granted, you know, they would lose 2 games possibly if they lost to the Titans. You know, you try not to worry about those things. The Bills only try to worry about what's in front of them, and what's in front of them really is the Baltimore Ravens, who are 10-2, have won 8 games in a row. And so, I mean, similarly, you put in a win against the Ravens, and the Bills are 99% to make the playoffs, just by beating the Ravens. Like they have a playoff clinching scenario this week, but do I think that's going to happen? No, not really. But it's doable. So, you know, it's easier said than done, I guess, because obviously I don't want to just gloss past the Ravens, who've won 8 games in a row and are hitting on all cylinders right now. What can I say really about, like, they look every part of a Super Bowl contender as you could ask for, really. I know last week against San Francisco they had their lowest total, or second lowest total yardage output of the year, 283 total yards. Lamar Jackson only threw for, I believe it was 105, 14 of 23 for 105 yards and a touchdown, but 101 rushing and a touchdown. The guy is probably going to go over 1,000 rushing yards this week in Buffalo. He has 977. His yardage combined with Josh Allen's the most rushing yards between two quarterbacks ever in the history of the league, as they face each other. I got to be honest with you, I didn't really believe in him when he was drafted. I didn't really want to be the team that drafted him. And Baltimore, much to their credit, gets in there at 32. They get the fifth-year option with him as well. And much to Greg Roman's credit, he did a pretty good job with Tyrod Taylor, did a really good job with Colin Kaepernick. We'll see if this lasts with Lamar Jackson. But right now, I mean, you can't say the guy looks every part of the most valuable player in the league. He has accounted for 32 touchdowns, has just 5 interceptions, 2,500 passing yards, obviously almost 1,000 rushing yards. Like, looks the part. I'm excited to watch him. He's averaging 7 yards a rush, 140 carries, 7 yards a rush. It's crazy. He does only average about 20, looks like exactly 26 passing attempts per game. Half of those go to the tight ends. I mean, they got some tight end threats. Mark Andrews, Hayden Hurst, and Nick Boyle. I mean, they have 6 touchdowns combined. 9 touchdowns combined amongst them. Mark Andrews has 7 of them. Boyle and Hurst have 1 apiece. But he does like to throw to the tight ends a lot, and that is probably due to the formations that they run, to be honest with you. They run a lot. They have a lot of run-heavy formations. A lot of read option stuff. Extra tight ends in there for blocking, so you don't know if they're blocking or they're throwing. It's pretty well designed by Greg Roman and to John Harbaugh. I'm sure he's sitting in on that as well. They don't even throw to the receivers a ton. Marquise Brown looks like a nice player, but he only gets about 6 targets a game, averages 3 or 4 catches. He does have 6 touchdowns, so he is a deep threat. Like I said, they throw mostly to the tight ends. Mark Ingram gets a couple. The running backs, Mark Ingram is very effective rushing the football. Fits perfectly into that system. The perfect, complementary type of running style to Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, shifty, quick, fast. Mark Ingram, in between the tackles, runs over you, runs through you. But touching back, Lamar Jackson's, like I said, half of his targets go to tight ends. Another couple to the running backs. 5 or 6 to Hollywood Brown. 3 to Willie Snead. 2 to Seth Roberts. 1 to Miles Boykin. Like something like that. Like he spreads it around a little bit, but you can kind of predict where the ball is going to go. You just don't know when it's going to be coming at you. The Ravens are super talented, and that's just on offense. They're first in scoring offense. They're second in total yards behind the Cowboys. They're 5th in scoring defense, 9th in total yards, 6th against the run, 13th against the pass. But they're like first in like every rushing category: first in rushing attempts, first in rushing yards, first in rushing touchdowns, first in yards per attempt. First in percentage of drives that end in an offensive score, first in average time per drive. They like to eat up the clock. First in average plays per drive, yards per drive, points per drive. Like, they're good. They're good. And I didn't even touch on their defense. Obviously, they lost Tony Jefferson earlier in the year, but they still have Earl Thomas, who's like, the main leader back there. Matt Judon, a nice player for them. They traded for Marcus Peters. He's been really good for them. Jimmy Smith is now back in the lineup. Tyus Bowser's been a nice player for them. He's got 4 sacks. Marlon Humphrey, obviously. I don't want to skip anyone. They're super good. So I'm hopeful for the Bills. I want to see how they measure up. I really want to see how they measure up against these guys. But the Ravens, I believe right now, are 6.5-point favorites, and I'm really going to listen to that. I think the Ravens beat the Bills 27-20. Let's go with that. Guys, let me know how you're feeling. This team really still looks like they're headed to the playoffs. Hit me up on Twitter. My Twitter handle and YouTube username are the same. We'll talk anything. I talk more than Bills football. Enjoy your weekend, guys. See you at the game. As always, above all else, go Bills.